In the desert of Texas, we asked a raven, one of the most intelligent of birds, what he thought of twits and pishers. Well, here we are, folks, west of the Pecos. All ready for some birdwatching action in Big Bend National Park. This is a fantastic part of southern Texas where the U.S. border swings way deep into Mexico. And it took 2 days of driving to get here from McAllen, Texas. On our last expedition, we were in what they call the lower valley of the Rio Grande. It's a relatively crowded, relatively not so scenic place, but it's full of wonderful birds. And I'm all ready to explore this wide open country here, see what sort of bird watching this place has to offer. But I've got to tell you first, we had a lot of time on the drive here to watch for roadside raptors, a lot of time to practice the harmonica. It was a good trip. Just reminiscing about it right now. Excuse me for a moment. Got a few licks I still have to work out. You know, the neat thing about harmonica playing in the desert is that roadrunners keep showing up. Big Bend National Park is not terribly close to any major center, and it is therefore a superb getaway spot for birders and just about anyone else, although it does take some time to get there. On the road to Big Bend, I was pleased to see a few Harris's hawks, a southwestern specialty bird. This handsome bird has rusty shoulders, a yellow face, and a white base to the tail. Young Harris's hawks have less colorful plumage, but they do share a colorful personality with the adults. These are social raptors that often hunt together in groups, and they have long been considered one of the most intelligent of hawks by falconers. The Harris's is a soaring hawk, but a sleeker and snazzier bird than the buteos most of us are used to seeing. Technically, it's not a buteo, it's a parabuteo, and as such, it's the only representative of its group in North America. Later on down the road, a group of black vultures were circling over a bloated, decaying, road-killed deer. And I trust you won't mind if I don't show you the deer. Certainly the vultures look better in the air than they do at a carcass. Black vultures are heavier and less buoyant than turkey vultures, and even in silhouette you can identify them by their more flapping flight, their short tails, and their brief, flat-winged glides. Have a look at that. We just stopped by the roadside, and this golden eagle has flown up. It's being pursued by ravens. Oh yeah, perfect. You can see every field mark on that bird. The golden head and neck, and this is an immature golden eagle, so it has a big white patch at the base of the tail. And you know how big ravens are. They're huge, and that just means that this eagle is that much more huge. You see a lot of bald eagles. At least I see a lot of bald eagles here and there, but boy, you don't see that many goldens. The ravens are really taking some chances there too. I don't think the eagle's likely to actually hurt them. It just wants to get away from them, and the ravens in turn just want to get the eagle out of their territory so they don't have to worry about it. What's that sound? That sounds like thunder or something. Whoa! Did you see that? That was one of those secret military spy planes. Good thing we got some videotape. Maybe we should go now. You know, one of the toughest decisions that a traveling birder has to face is how much time do you budget for each place that you want to visit? I mean, a place like Big Bend, there's more than 750,000 acres here. It takes at least a day just to drive around it. Never mind any sort of hiking or, you know, in-depth exploration that you might want to do. Of course, there's no secret formula for this, but it does really help if you examine the map, think about distances and what sort of experience you want to have when you get to the place. I mean, for me, we only get 2 days to put together one of these half-hour episodes. And for you, I'm sure that you have the same sort of problem. I mean, you only get so much vacation time and you've only got so much money. Still, it's worth thinking about before you embark on a birding excursion. The Big Bend in Big Bend National Park is a bend in the Rio Grande, which of course means big river. In truth, however, it's not that big a river, and you'd never suspect this peaceful desert stream of being an international border. Along the banks, I watched American pipits foraging for insects, one of the birds I've encountered almost everywhere I've traveled in North America. Wasn't this a wonderful vista? The valley of the Rio Grande, cottonwoods along the river, some low marshy areas with wonderful big bamboo-like grasses, and then on the upper dry slopes, sand dunes, and this kind of mesquite cactus ocotillo desert scrub. Lots and lots of birds here, but it's a bit difficult to get a good look at any of them. However, right now there are 2 small desert birds that are in plain view. Have a look down here first. That little guy is a very typical southwestern desert species. It's about the size and shape of a chickadee, but it's in a family all to itself, at least here in North America. That's the verdin. And even though you only get a quick look at a verdin, most of the time you can recognize it very easily because it's got a bright yellow head. Beautiful little critter. Very typical of these habitats. And then the other one, there's one calling up on the hill here. And there's another one down on this boulder here. That's a rock wren. Pretty typical wren. Doesn't have much color to it. In fact, it's colored very much like a rock. A very animated, noisy little rock. That's a typical desert species too, or dryland species. We've encountered both of these birds on previous episodes, but we didn't get any good videotape of them until now, so this is a good moment for us. Birdin' for verdin, always a pleasure. forget to bring water when you're in the desert. It's not particularly hot here. In fact, it's quite comfortable, but it's really dry. And the other thing not to forget, don't forget to look up. I've been here for almost half an hour before I looked up and noticed that the sky is absolutely full of white-throated swifts. And it's not only amazing that there are white-throated swifts here, I mean, they're quite a widespread bird. You remember we ran into them in the Okanagan at Vaso Lake, about the only place in Canada you can find them. But it's also amazing that there are so many of them. There must be thousands, tens of thousands. It's very difficult to count swifts. In fact, it's almost impossible. How can there be enough bugs up there to feed that many swifts? Flying bugs in midwinter, that's just incredible. And they're very low down too. Boy, the best way to watch swifts is just to lie down, forget about your binoculars because they're going so fast that you'll never be able to follow them, and just enjoy their aerobatic splendor. That's what I'm going to do. Well, as you probably realize, more and more birders these days are getting into butterfly watching as an add-on to their birding, especially midday when it's too hot for most birds to be active. Butterflies are at their best. Here, we've got some sort of a little purple flower. Sorry, I can't be more specific than that. In bloom, and a lot of butterflies are visiting it. There are some skippers in here, lots of whites. Some sulfurs, at least 2 species of sulfurs. And a lady. Might be a painted lady, might be an American painted lady, I don't know. The reason I don't know is because I had my field guide, Robert Pyle's Field Guide to North American Butterflies. It was in the pile of stuff that I was going to bring down here. And then I thought, no, I don't have room for that. And I completely forgot that here on the Mexican border, there are butterflies in great abundance all year round. So don't make the same mistake I did. Bring both of your field guides, butterflies and birds. Of course, you could also bring a TV crew and take videotape and identify them that way later, but that's the hard way. I guarantee it. If you visit Big Bend in search of birds, you will want to spend some time out walking in the desert scrub. And if you do this, be sure to get out early in the morning before it gets too terribly hot. I can also recommend the trail at the old Sam Nail Ranch, where a small seep of water now supports a grove of poplar trees. I did some pishing and squeaking there without much luck. Eventually, though, I did stir up a mockingbird. And a hermit thrush. And a thrasher. I then noticed that 2 of the local mockingbirds were engaged in a heated battle, possibly over mistletoe berries, which only occur in patches here and there. If you watch closely, you'll see that these battles are very serious indeed, and not just a harmless display. The birds need the berries to survive, and they'll fight with all they have to possess them. Like Old West cowboys slugging it out over a half-full canteen, this quiet struggle goes on each winter's day against the deceptively peaceful backdrop of the Chihuahuan Desert. You know, in our last episode, I was talking a bit about the difference between places you go to see particular species of birds and places you go to in order to be surrounded by fantastic natural landscapes. There's a big difference between Big Bend National Park and the famous Mexican Crow Park in Brownsville. You'll recall that's actually the city dump. And I have to admit that the television camera lens, it can make a really ugly, smelly place look a lot nicer than it is, and it can make a spectacular place look a lot more mundane than it really is. So here's the crux of it as I see it. You know, birders, they're often the first people to argue that natural places should be set aside as parks and preserves, but they're also spending a lot of time in the garbage dumps and the sewage lagoons. And what's more so, the birds themselves are not consistently distinguishing between the pristine natural habitats and the highly disturbed habitats around people. So you have to wonder what sort of message society is getting from us, the birders, and what sort of message we should be getting from the birds. Now, I'm not exactly sure how to solve this little problem, but it does make you think about the difference between the quality of your birding experiences and the quantity of bird species that you've seen, don't you think? While I'm in a philosophical mood, I'll tell you how much I enjoyed encountering a walking stick on this trip as well. If it would just sit still, this insect would look exactly like a twig, but if you look closely, you'll see its cricket-like head and long antennae. I encountered this creature down by the river on a lazy midday break, with ravens croaking in the distance and a yellow-bellied sapsucker tapping on a poplar tree. Nearby, this lovely red-tailed hawk was very conveniently unconcerned with my presence, allowing a good close look at its plumage. Say, are you one of those people who likes watching birds but you can't stand flycatchers? They're all so dull-colored and they're impossible to identify? Well, have I got a flycatcher for you. This one is unmistakable, easy to identify. It sits right out in the open, you can't miss it, and it's so brightly colored you're going to want to wear sunglasses to look at it. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting Pyrocephalus rubinus, the vermilion flycatcher. This is a male vermilion flycatcher. The females are less spectacular, and once you find one, you can watch it for as long as you want, since they always seem to return to their favorite lookout post between flights after flying insects. There's a rock wren up on the boulders here, a very tame one. If you look across the river, there's a marsh wren calling in those reeds there, but there's also a black phoebe down by the water side. That's another really easy to identify flycatcher. It's all black except for a white belly. But you know, if you came here and you'd never seen a black phoebe before, you couldn't count that bird on your official North American bird list because it's in Mexico. However, they've just changed the official rules so that you can count birds that you hear, and you can hear it. And you can also hear the echo off the rocks on the U.S. side. So I don't know if you can count that or not. Or what if you saw the reflection of the bird in the water on this side of the river? I hope someone from the official list committee is watching. I wouldn't mind a ruling on that. Well, here's my list for this episode, a bit shorter than the last one, but of course the point of showing you these lists is to give a feel for what you could see if you came here yourself. And in that sense, an honest list is better than a long one. Don't you think? I'm just reading a bit of Harold Holt's book, A Birder's Guide to the Rio Grande Valley of Texas. Good book. Listen to some of this. Traveling about the park, you are not likely to forget that this is a part of the Chihuahuan Desert. The land is extremely harsh and dry. Nearly every plant has thorns and water is very scarce. Here it is not hard to visualize what hell is like. Well, I don't know. I'm not much of a believer in hell, you know. Of course, if the birds are any good, we'll probably wind up doing a show there someday. But we're out of time here now. Too bad. This was one of my favorite destinations so far. It's almost Christmas bird count season. That means we have to get back up to Canada. This year we're going to go to Victoria. So why don't you join us there? And until then, happy birding. We'll see you again.